Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Carl, a member of the CK-12 team, and we're coming to you today from Palo Alto, California. My colleague and I, Lindsay, will be running today's webinar, Getting Started with FlexBooks. We're so glad you've joined us and are participating in our CK-12 Certified Educator Program.
Yes, thank you to everyone who has joined us today, and welcome to the second week of live sessions for the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. We have built this program for educators who want to go deeper with CK-12 and really become experts at using our platform to help make teaching easier and to truly personalize the learning experience for students. So a lot of you are here for week 2, but some of you are here for your very first day of the program because you could complete it here this week. So I do want to go over some reminders of what it takes to become a CK-12 certified educator. You need to watch 2 mandatory on-demand sessions. We launched the first on-demand session that was called Certified Educator Program and CK-12 Overview on Sunday, July 1st. If you have not had a chance to watch that session yet, it is required, so please make it a priority since it sets you up for success and should help answer any questions you might have about the Certified Educator Program and about navigating CK-12. If you are waiting on our second on-demand session called Beyond the CK-12 Certified Educator Program, it's going to be available this Friday at the conclusion of our live sessions. And you will have until July 31st to watch it. July 31st is when all program information stuff is due, and we will start issuing certificates in August. So those are the 2 on-demand sessions. You can find them in our Google Classroom. And then you need to attend 5 live sessions, just like this one that you guys are on today. You can register for more at ck12.org/register. And string together 5. All of our assignments or all of our sessions have an accompanying assignment, and these are due on July 31st. And so lastly, after you've done the on-demand sessions, the live sessions, and the assignments, you're going to fill out a final form where you're going to request your certification, and then you're going to be a CK-12 certified educator. Google is a partner of the CK-12 Foundation, and we're using a Google Class to organize all of our materials and assignments for the program. You should have received several emails from us about accessing our Google Class. If you did not receive emails, we've had some people report to us that our emails are hitting their spam folder. So if you guys just want to check your spam folder to make sure you're getting our emails, that would be awesome. Your email has a join code, as does your Zoom confirmation emails that you need to access the Google Class. So if you have not joined yet, we need you to get in there soon to start completing assignments. But don't panic, there's still time to get you in there. Like I said, this is where you find our first on-demand session that includes 5 short videos to get you started with CK-12 and our program. You will need to watch those to complete the assignment as soon as you can. At the end of today's webinar, we're going to stay on and answer any questions you still might have regarding Google Classroom, but right now we really want to get going with today's content. One thing we do want you to be using throughout this presentation are the 2 Zoom windows. We use the Q&A window for kind of the direct line to the presenter. So if you have questions that you want our presenter to answer during this session, please type them in the Q&A window. That helps us to stay organized and make sure we're answering the questions. And then in the chat window, just like you guys are doing right now, we've got people from all over the world joining us. Please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, what you're teaching. The trick is, though, is that we need you to select all panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your message. So with that,
I'll say thanks, Lindsay, and a special shout out to all of our international users today who we have Canada and Bahamas, Argentina, and even from tomorrow in the future, we have Bahrain, where it's 1 in the morning, and even Malaysia. So we have quite a nice spectrum representing the world, and we welcome all of you as we get started talking FlexBooks here. Before we do that, I'd like to find out a little bit more about y'all. So you're going to see a poll pop up here in a few seconds, and I'd like you to respond to a very short question. Have you used and or customized a CK-12 FlexBook? So you have 4 options here, and we'll give you a few seconds to click. after you vote, we'll close it out and then share the results so everybody can see them. All right, 3/4 of you have already voted. That's great. Final 25% here. All right, we'll give you about 10 seconds more. All righty, final clicks and we'll go forward. All right, so as you can see here, 70% of you have not used a FlexBook before. 22% have used one but without customizing it, and then the rest of you have done some level of customization, which is great. So I think you're in the right place because that's what we're covering. So why don't we get started with today's session? Today's session is called Getting Started with FlexBooks. For those of you brand new to FlexBooks, or perhaps those of you who've used our FlexBooks but have never really customized them to your specific curriculum, this is a great place to get started. Specifically, during today's seminar, we are going to be covering the following topics. Why choose a CK-12 FlexBook? Why customizable and shareable content is so important to educators. Next, we'll do finding a FlexBook in CK-12 content. Navigating CK-12 to find concepts, original FlexBooks, concept collection FlexBooks, and user-generated content. That's books made by you guys. Customizing a FlexBook, the basics of editing, whether it's deleting or reordering, adding, uploading content, as well as best practices for working collaboratively with our books and your coworkers. Finally, publishing and sharing your FlexBook. How to get your books in the hands of colleagues and students through the unique URL, the schools page, ShareAplane, and offline reader. So by the end of this session, you'll be able to do all the things listed here. Find a FlexBook, start a FlexBook, customize a FlexBook, add some chapters, change the chapter descriptions, reorder them, delete chapters, make basic edits, publish and share a FlexBook, understand the best practices when collaborating with a colleague, and successfully use FlexBooks with students. We think we're going to give you everything that you need to really start creating a wonderful customized book for you and your students to use. Last summer, several of participants asked if we could prepare a handout that would accompany each session. You spoke, we listened, and we're pleased to announce that we have a session resource page now. This will help you not only today, but also later. We realize that you're getting a lot of information this week, so these resource pages will show you the key information and help remind you how to use the CK-12 resources covered in this program. Feel free to share any feedback you have to help improve these pages since it's the first year we're using them. You're welcome to print these resources before a session begins if it helps to follow along, and of course you can use it afterward as a handy resource as you're working on the assignment or working on FlexBooks through the school year. For those of you who choose to attend the Advanced FlexBooks editing session, then here are some types of things we're going to cover in that session. Uploading, editing, and adding attributions for images. Figure versus inline images. Our Creative Commons licensing. Embedding videos and multimedia content. Using CK-12's math editor. LaTeX coding. Linking to CK-12 interactives, headers, subheaders, tables, element boxes, page breaks, and PDF versus on-screen view. If you're wanting additional help with any of these skills right now, please aware this is a getting started with FlexBooks, focusing on the basics. And we'll prioritize questions related to the basics during this webinar. But don't worry, we will stay on today as always and answer any questions you have by the end of the session. We also encourage you to join us for the advanced editing session. We think it's a great next step for everybody after today's session.
Okay, so you might be asking, why choose a FlexBook? What makes us different from other content providers or platforms? You have a choice when choosing how to deliver content for your students. You could use that traditional textbook, one that costs a fortune, weighs 10 pounds, is outdated from the minute it's on your shelves, and one that never really follows the sequence for how you teach your particular subject. But many of you are here today because you've already decided that that model is outdated and just too costly as more and more schools are becoming budget conscious. So then you're faced with another choice: how to replace those textbooks and still have a quality curriculum to give to your students. We see a lot of teachers who are trying to use something like Google Docs as the solution, but as so many of you know, this isn't really a great replacement for a book. It's a lot of things in a lot of different places, and students and parents sometimes feel like they're missing out without a single source of content. So this is where CK-12 FlexBooks can really change the game for you. Several years ago, Coeur d'Alene schools in Idaho decided to go with CK-12 instead of traditional publishers' books for 5 courses. They have incredible educators who have worked in teams to customize the CK-12 content and then added in their own content that they've created and curated from other sources in a sequence that works for their school. So they've done the right thing. They've customized the books for the needs of their students, and they've really found it useful to do an annual update to those books. So CK-12's FlexBooks are the best way to get quality customized content in the hands of students.
One of the major advantages of using CK-12's content and interactive books is they can be accessed anywhere, anytime, and on any device. You have the power to read the entire CK-12 FlexBook collection on any personal device, and now you can download the textbooks to read offline with our app. Our friends in Lincoln, Nebraska are going to compile all of their FlexBooks in a FlexBook, all their content in a FlexBook, and all the students are going to have access to it on their devices through a URL. But one of the missions of CK-12 is to get our books in the hands of any student who wants to learn, even in areas where the internet isn't as readily available. So that's why we developed our Chrome offline reader, making content available consistently, even beyond the personal devices. This means that even Chromebooks, laptops, and desktop computers can now access great CK-12 content when not connected to the internet. So be sure to go to the App Store or Google Play stores and download the app for any mobile device, or click on the offline reader link on any FlexBook page. And I'll show you how to do that in a few seconds here. And remember, all of our resources at CK-12 are free. You will not be asked for a credit card or hit a paywall. We are simply a nonprofit trying to make education accessible. We're proud to be a cost-free solution for you.
While we don't charge for any of our content, you can still rest assured that our FlexBooks are of the highest quality. To write our FlexBooks, we follow a model similar to the publishers. Our content has been developed by hundreds of people with PhDs, people who are professors, teachers, authors, NASA scientists, and other subject matter and domain experts over the past 11 years. If you're ever curious to see this list of authors, you could go to our Meet the Team page that you can access in the footer of ck12.org, and you can learn more about our authors. So while we are like traditional publishers in the creation of our content, the benefits of using a FlexBook is the ability to customize with our Plix, our sim modalities, with videos, with resources you curate from other sources, all of this bringing your content to life. Another thing that you can't do with a textbook is translate it into another language. And with CK-12's FlexBooks, you can do that with the press of a button. We have some Spanish editions of FlexBooks built on our site, but with that Google Translate option in the lower right-hand corner, you have the ability to change our content into almost any language instantaneously. Also, sometimes when I'm visiting with teachers about a digital textbook, they might voice the concern that students lose the ability to write in margins or highlight in a printed book. And our FlexBooks allow students to use highlighters right on their screen and take any notes that will later be available on their accounts.
I think now is a good time to show you a couple of minutes of video footage highlighting some of our FlexBook users in Utah, Texas, Tennessee, and Idaho. You'll get a glimpse of our executive director and co-founder, Niru Khosla, who started CK-12 back in 2007 to radically change the old textbook model.
I love learning. And I actually really love books. But the problem with textbooks is that they are actually very limiting format. And not every child can learn from that. Textbooks are created to be average, so you cover almost every kind of student. The problem is that that doesn't work for every student. That's why we created FlexBooks. These are textbooks that are current, customizable, and of course, free.
We would be flat as teachers if we weren't always asking ourselves, what's in the student's best interest? What's going to be down the tunnel for them? Down the tunnel for them is less and less printed textbooks and more digital resources. And I'm not preparing them for their futures if I'm not learning how to use those resources as well.
CK-12 was an obvious choice for us. We were able to experience some cost savings with it. The content is rich, it's engaging to students, and it's flexible, so it allows us to really tailor the tools to meet the needs of the instruction.
We can embed multimedia components to make it more engaging for our students, to make it more relevant for our students, so that they're no longer using a static textbook, but one that's dynamic and rigorous and high quality and easily updated. Teachers can go and find a textbook that meets their needs, and they can constantly revise and edit as they go along.
The CK-12 actually meets and exceeds the standards that are required by our curriculum, our state and district curriculum.
I didn't realize that something this simple as online textbooks could change the way that I teach that much. But it's been pretty much a door that has opened that I can't close anymore.
If I were speaking to someone that was considering the CK-12, I would say don't hesitate because of just the savings and just the practicality of it. But the current information and the ease of use with our students who are engaged with technology, there's just nothing else out there like it.
Okay, we're going to stop there for a second and see what's in our Q&A window. Remember, if you have a question that you would like Carl to answer, please type it in Q&A. Continue the awesome conversation going on in chat. So right now we just have one open question, Carl. This teacher is asking, can the teacher see the highlights on the student flexbook? And then somebody asked also about like annotation and highlighting here. What about margin writing?
Sure. So you're talking about the feature that we have where you give the opportunity for students to highlight with different colors and also make annotations, talk to the text. They can read a whole paragraph and then summarize what that is. And we've seen this in a lot of our classes. The bottom line is a teacher does not have access to the highlights made by the student. What can happen, and I'll show you this a little bit later, is if you want to see the annotations and the highlights that the students made, I've seen teachers where they have the students take a quick screen pic and then email that to them as example of what they've done. And you know, the nice thing is we make a summary of all those highlights and annotations at the bottom of the screen, and we'll take a look at that. So that should cover the margin writing too with the annotations. So it's a great feature that we offer, but at this point it is not available to the teacher who's in charge of the class. And I think that's about it, Lindsay, so why don't we move on?
Okay, before navigating to the site and before you do a little demo here of all the different ways we can customize a book, I want to show you some of our most popular FlexBooks. The simplest way to get started with CK-12 is to grab one of our existing books, click Customize, rename it, and then share a URL. So here you're seeing some of our most popular FlexBooks on CK-12. They focus on middle and high school science. As you can see here, for middle school, we offer earth science, life science, physical science, and biology. And then not to leave math out, we also have FlexBooks for grades 6, 7, and 8 math at the middle school level. And then here are some of our high school FlexBooks. Science topics include biology, chemistry, physics, and earth science for high school. We have comprehensive coverage for high school math as well, and we're very excited to share our brand new Common Core high school math books, which are now available on our site. These books have been totally written from the ground up and feature lots of interactives in each lesson. So take a look at them and share them with your colleagues.
Alrighty, well, I should be sharing my screen now, and we're going to go live to the CK-12 site and learn how to find all the amazing FlexBooks that are available. So the first thing I'd like to do is to show you to find a FlexBook by looking at the branches on the homepage. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and navigate over to ck12.org. I'm logged in our demo account here, which is a teacher account, and it's, for the most part, mostly the same as the students would see. One thing, if you've used it before, you might have only used a couple of the branches, so click on Show All My Subjects, and it'll actually expand them out to show you everything that we have content for. So let's go ahead and go right over to Biology. And once we get to Biology, you're going to see that we are going to have a list of the units in biology, and inside there are all the concepts. But for this right now, we're focusing on the textbooks. So we're currently on, by default, the Concepts tab. And down here, next door, we have FlexBook textbooks. If you can click on that right now. So this is a great way to see the variety of FlexBooks available here. And we're going to go through these. The first one you see here is CK-12 Biology, with also supporting Teacher Edition, Workbook, and Quizzes and Tests. These were the ones that we built first, and these are great replacements for the books that we got from the publishers. They're broken up by lessons. They're 45-minute to 1-hour lessons. But then in 2012, we started breaking everything up into concepts. So you'll see here that we have now a biology concept book. Now, if we click into that and look at the table of content, for the most part, it's going to look the same here. But when you get at the lesson level, you're going to see, for example, the highly controversial topic of evolution has been broken up into 25 mini lessons. So in one class period, you might actually cover 2 or 3 of these. So these don't represent the number of days, but instead represent the specific concepts that you cover. And the benefit of doing this way is it's easy for us to show you other content that your students are studying. If we go back to the FlexBooks again and see that list, you're going to see also that we offer an advanced biology concept book. And we also offer a different book called Understanding Biodiversity. One of the exciting things that you'll see throughout the site is that you have a variety of books actually written in Spanish. They are not by Google Translate. These are translated by human beings. So like for biology here, we have CK-12 Conceptos Biología. And so this is a book that has been translated. What they did is they took this book right here, the biology concept book, and they made it into the Spanish version of that. All right, so that's finding books through the branches here. You simply click on a branch you're interested in, and then click on the FlexBook tab. Another way to find it is using our schools page. And take a look at how you find the schools page. As a teacher, you will scroll down until you find the 4 Explore circles. And the last Explore circle is the schools link. So you click there, and it's going to figure out where you are for the most part and try to offer you a state near you. So like I'm currently in Palo Alto, so it offered me California. But you can also search from other schools too. And so we're going to come down here to the great state of Texas. I think, did I go past it? No, there it is. And in Texas, they have their own standards called the TEKS. And we have a variety of books that have been written corresponding to the Texas TEKS. I want to give a shout out here to our district of El Paso Independent School District, one of the 4 districts in El Paso, and they've done great things here using CK-12. At first, they simply did 4 science classes, and they went through and developed the books using CK-12 content, and then the next summer they came back and they did 30 more subjects, and they created books for each one of these subjects. The interesting thing about that is a lot of these subjects, we didn't have any content for them, so they actually provided all the content from the great content that their curriculum people and their teachers use within the district. An example here is AP US History, AP European History, AP Government. So there's a lot of great books. And the really cool thing is you can come into any of these books, open it up, and click Customize and begin the customization process. And we'll show you how to do that in a few minutes here. The next thing you can do is try typing a subject. This search bar is available on all the CK-12 pages. So we could type in something like algebra. And once again, it's going to take me here to this concept list, and I can click on the FlexBook textbook tab. Because algebra spans both middle school and high school, you're going to see a tab here for middle school, and then I can also click on the high school tab. Just like with biology, you'll see that there's an algebra book that has the word concepts in it, and then one that doesn't have the word concept. So this Algebra 1 book here is the original FlexBook that we made for Algebra 1. And secondly, you're going to see that there's a concept book now. Oops, I have to go back to high school. And there's a concept book there, okay? The really cool thing, and we're going to see this, is our brand new Common Core books that are embedded with interactives throughout in every lesson. And we feel these are really exciting books because so many people have been asking us, CK-12, when are you going to give us truly Common Core written books? We didn't just take our old content and put a new color, lipstick on it. We actually put brand new books that our subject matter experts actually wrote from the very beginning. So we think they're really exciting, and we'll share more about those as we go here. Up next, we're going to go back to the home page. And the other thing you can do is use the branches here, like biology. And we can go inside and find like ecology. And this is a list of all the concepts that are part of ecology. So I can take something like aquatic organisms, and it's going to show me our concept page as another way to find content. Now, these aren't full FlexBooks at this point, but they're great modalities, we call them, ways of learning that you can use teaching content, teaching the biology content to your students, okay? The other thing I want to show you is many of our pages have a separate tab for community content as opposed to CK-12 content. So this means that it's content that has been developed from our users themselves. And where this really comes out is we can go back to the very beginning, and let's type in something like, let's do government. CK-12 doesn't have a lot on government, so you can see here that none of these things are a great match, but the moment you click over on community contributed, you're going to find whole textbooks that are related to government. And I'm going to go down and I'm going to click on one of the filters on the left-hand side here. And that's going to only show me government books. So here we have EPISD's U.S. government. In Tennessee, they have United States government and civics. So you can see a lot of books that have been contributed by our users, specifically giving us content that we don't have a lot of content for. All right, and there's one more way to go find content. I'm going to go back. Remember, you can always click on the CK-12 logo here to go back to the main page. When you're logged in as a teacher and you scroll down, you're going to be able to use the standards browser here. So for example, let's go to California and pick biology. Biology, why there she is. And let's choose grade 9. And it's another way to find standard aligned biology books. In this case, it found the biology concept book. So there are lots of different ways. I've shown you how to use the branches and then clicking on the FlexBook tabs. I've showed you the schools page, the search bar, and finally using the standard align browser there. So we're going to pause here and see, Lindsay, do we have any questions out there?
We do. We're getting plenty of questions in. I'd say the one that's come up several times is we've got a lot of teachers who want to know about elementary school FlexBooks. Are there currently ones on our site? Is there a plan to develop more?
That's a great question, and we do get asked a lot. From the beginning, we focused mostly on middle school and high school. But what is happening now is if you go to our homepage here, you're going to see that, let's show all subjects. In science, we have one of our partner districts, Polk County in Florida, has developed some readers for grades K through 5. And the content that we have for grades 1 through 5 in math is all practice and videos, but we don't have any FlexBooks yet. And what we hope is that one of our district partners will work with us and help us develop FlexBooks for them that will work and be shareable on CK-12. So if you work at the administrative level within a district, we are definitely looking for some partners to do this work with. And the reason is we're a very small organization. We have about 35 people in the office here. And for us, we think that's work that districts and schools can do. So we would rather spend our money developing things that you guys can't do at your schools, like adaptive practice using machine learning or these incredible interactives that we have. So the idea here is we are going to partner with people and create user-generated content that will fill in the need for math and science at the elementary level. Also, I know there was a question about other subjects and what our plans are. Our plans are to build a really powerful platform where anybody can come and share content from any subject. It doesn't have to be math or science.
Okay, so 2 follow-up questions to what you just talked about, Carl. Are the community contributions vetted by CK-12? How does CK-12 get into quality control with this community area?
So whatever you find under the CK-12 content tab anywhere has been vetted by us. It's our content or one of our trusted partners' content that we're working with. The moment you go into user-generated content, it's very different. And just to put that into perspective, we have about 140 CK-12 created FlexBooks. To date, about 190,000 FlexBooks have been created on our site. So that's by our users. So, we don't have the ability to go through and curate content from our users out of that 190,000 books that have been made. 35 people in Palo Alto, California can't do that. So that's when you switch over to community contributed, you're going to find a lot of great quality stuff. But like anything you find, you will have to curate it yourself to see if it matches what you need.
Okay, I think 2 additional questions I'm going to have you cover before we move on to the next section. And you guys keep asking your Q&A. We've got Felix and Katie here answering your questions, whether we answer them live or we text you answers. Keep asking. But Carl, somebody wanted you to show, again, how to get to the schools page, which you can do either www.ck12.org/schools is a direct link, or I was going to have you go down actually. So that's one way. That'll take you directly there. Or you can go down to where you had the Explore options there, and you can reach the schools icon. If you're logged in as a teacher, if you're not seeing that school circle down there, you're probably logged in as a student. And then, Carl, I think lastly, there are a couple questions again about the difference between a basic book and a concept book. So let's clarify that before we move into the next section.
Sure, and that is a common question. Remember, we created the basic, the regular CK-12 FlexBook. We call them kind of the original FlexBooks, starting in 2007. And these were books that directly mimic the style of books that publishers were making at the time. And so these are books that have 45-minute to 60-minute lessons. Multiple concepts are covered in each lesson. The difference is between in the concept books, we've broken things down not by lessons, but by mini lessons, by concepts. And so if you go over here, for example, to geometry, and you take a look under the FlexBook tab, and there will be a geometry book here that has concepts on it. These are, we can go into triangles and congruence. all of these here are not full lessons, but are concepts, and you can include as much information from them or combine two of them to make one lesson. And, you know, at CK-12, a lot of schools have gone to block scheduling now and other things. So I think it's really important that the teacher have the ability to rearrange stuff and put things together in the order and the way they need it.
Okay, we do have a question that's asking about copyright. If I use my own content in a FlexBook, does it become OER, or do I still have my intellectual property? And I have a slide on that, so I'm gonna take control of the screen here for a second. But Carl, why don't you talk them through the CC by NC license?
Sure. So once you upload content onto CK-12, it kind of inherits the Creative Commons license that CK-12 uses. And this license, you know, I'm not a lawyer and I'm an educator, and I don't understand these things, but the bottom line is this one can be fairly easily understood. The bottom line is this is a copyright. So our content is covered by a copyright, but it's an open copyright, which says you can share this content and you can adapt this content as long as you give credit to CK-12, and that's the buy thing, the attribution thing, and non-commercial, so you can't sell it. As long as you say where the content came from and you don't sell it, then you can share and use content you find on CK-12. And the same is true for anything that is put on CK-12. Now, what this means is, let's say you have developed something. The moment you choose to put it on CK-12, you are agreeing to abide by this same license, the CY-BY-NC license. As on the same kind of idea, you also can't take copyright material and put that onto CK-12. For example, your favorite worksheet from Pearson that you've used time and time again, you can't just copy that and put that in Pearson. Pearson owns that, and they own the intellectual property, and we do not allow content on our site that is owned by somebody else. Okay, they've got to adhere to these agreements that we have. And, you know, the bottom line is that you can find ways to make it work, and you don't have to become a lawyer to figure it out.
Okay, I'm going to have Carl, why don't you go back to sharing your screen, and we're going to go into this next section on doing just some basic edits and getting started with sharing content.
Sure. So this is, I think, the most exciting part of today's session, is that you get to see how easy it is to actually find and make your own book. And to do so, I'm going to use one of our brand new interactive Common Core math books. And there's a shortcut to these books at the bottom of the page. Over here on the right-hand column, it says Common Core Math. And so I love geometry. I taught mathematics for 17 years, and I still to this day love geometry. So that's going to be the one that we click on here. And you can see we've arrived at the table of contents. And this is going to be true for whatever book you find on CK-12. So everybody, even if you're not a mathematician, watch this part, because I think it's the most exciting and magical part. When you're on this page, this is content in this book you decided, okay, this is what I need. This button right over here is customize. The first thing it's going to ask you to do is to give it a name. So I'm going to say Carl CK-12 Interactive Geometry Book for Common Core. And I'm going to save it. I'm not going to make any changes yet. I'm just going to make my own version. And just like that, I have my own version of the CK-12 Interactive Geometry Book. And the really cool thing is I now have a URL right here that I can share with anybody, including my students, my parents, other teachers. And this is my book. And you know, I haven't even begun to customize it yet. But once I do, it's really easy. They'll always see the most updated version. So just like that, I now have my own version. Let's go in and edit it. And you're going to see how easy it is to match the scope and sequence that we need. Now, this book was written for geometry, and in Common Core, the authors of Common Core really kind of reimagined how to teach geometry. So that's why we have rigid transformations. If you remember in the olden days, when I used to teach geometry transformations often came toward the end. But the Common Core authors actually said, we're going to build all of geometry based on transformations. But let's say we're from the olden days and I don't use Common Core in my state, and I'm going to move that way down here to the end. You simply pick it up and you drop it at the bottom down here. And you'll notice it reordered the chapter number. And I moved it using these little arrow things here. I can put reasoning and proof, which is often the way we used to start in chapter 2 of geometry. And I can save, of course. Let's say in my state, we don't do similarity. So we're going to remove that by pressing this little X right there to remove it. So really quickly, I can do scope and sequence, and I can even go inside of a chapter and move things around in the chapter. So you know what, my district likes us to teach side, side, side first, and then SAS, and then angle, side, angle, etc. So you can see moving things around not only the chapter level, but at the unit level too. Okay? And I always like, after I'm done kind of doing something like that, just click on Save. Next, we're going to go back in and edit again. And here we go. And this time we're going to go down and edit a lesson. So congruence. I love congruent triangles in geometry. So let's go, we're going to go do a side angle side. Click on the edit button, and it's going to put us, we can leave the name or we can change it if we want. I'm going to leave it. And then we're in the CK-12 editor. Now you'll see that this looks a lot like the Google Doc editor that you're used to, or even Word. These icons here should be fairly familiar. We've got, and you can point at anything to kind of see what it is if you don't understand what the icon is. You can insert a link, you can remove a link, insert a page break, you can even do tables. And the really exciting things here that you're going to learn about in advanced editing of FlexBook, we have our math editor, special characters and images, and insert videos, etc. So it's really powerful. But let's go take a look at what this lesson looks like here. So you can see here, we start out with some pictures, and then this is a video right here. And keep going. And there's an interactive here. So this lesson is chock full of videos and interactives and other things. So let's say I need to change this. And I want to start out with a big guiding question. And there's a guiding question here. But Carl's thoughts. What if you only knew two sides and the angle not between the sides? So I can change things here. I can also, make it bold, etc. I'm going to go click here, make it bold. And then when I'm done, I can finalize it. And it's going to show me my lesson now. And you can see there is the brand new content that I've just inserted here with the rest of this lesson, as we said, with the interactives in it, and everything else is still there. I can take anything out and I can put anything in here. So it's all still available, but that quickly you can start customizing your lesson here. Once you've done so, once again, this lesson has a unique URL. So if you wanted to send just this one lesson to somebody, you just copy that URL there and share it. And I'm going to show you how to share and publish right now. One of the most important things to help us get to the mission of CK-12 is this word right here, publish. Because it's when you publish that your content will show up when we're searching. And this helps us greatly, whether we're looking for geometry, US history, an AP book, whatever. The moment you click publish, it's published to the world by showing up in search. So the first thing I'd like to ask you to do is to really consider not making content on CK-12 that you don't share. The whole mission of CK-12 is to share wonderful, great content that has been already localized and customized to meet your state standards. So share that with other people so we're not all reinventing the wheel. That's one thing as teachers I've always said is we really need to avoid reinventing the wheel because we don't have enough time to do everything that we need to do in order to reinvent the wheel. So ways to share this now that we've finished it. You can use the Sharoplane here. Take a look here. She flies up. and I can share it to an email address here. I can share on Google Classroom directly, or using any of these social media sites. Another way to do is you can assign it to class. So I'm going to go back to my top level here, and I can share it with my classes here. I can assign specific lessons to my class. I already mentioned the using the URL, and really exciting is our offline reader here. Remember, we have an app for mobile devices, both on iOS and Google, but I want to show you this here, what it looks like when I'm using the Chrome browser, what the offline reader is. And let's open it up in the reader. And this, once again, is so that your students can access your FlexBook when they're not connected to the internet, okay? So you can see you can download the full book, and I just click that, or you can actually download lesson by lesson. So you can see it's downloading here in the background, but the nice thing is they'll have full access to your content. So that's a little summary of kind of how to start the customization process. Even if you don't think in the beginning you're going to make any edits to the CK-12 book, I really encourage you to go click customize and at least put your name in the title, and then start moving things around and doing things that you need to do so that you can have an interactive book that your students can use. So I think we're going to pause here.
I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions. We are going to talk a little bit about what if you're creating books in teams. But before we do that, Carl, we've got a user here who's, I think, trying to figure out the best way to share resources, saying that she understands that she can share a link for a section or share a link for an entire book. But how would you use that differently? And then also, suppose you edit a CK-12 book and publish the link to your students. If you go and edit anything in the book, would you need to share a new link, or would the link be the same regardless?
All right, so let's answer the second question first, which is when you've shared a link from the table of contents up here, okay? So to this link right here, this is the link that you can share with anybody, and they will always have access to the most recent version that you've published, okay? And anytime you finalize, it makes a new version, and they'll access the new version, but you have control of when that gets released to your students. So you might be working on the next chapter, and you don't need to release that version yet. So you're in control of finalizing it or not. And then the other question is, when would you share a lesson maybe over a whole book? Well, let's say I have a book that I've customized, and I know there's a teacher across town that I sometimes chat with, and she goes, I heard that you have a really good lesson on side angle side. And then you could easily navigate to that one lesson and share that with her, or you could send her the whole book. So it kind of depends on what you're doing.
Okay, a couple of questions surrounding standards. We have two users who are asking about NGSS FlexBooks. Is there NGSS integration? And then why is a user saying that maybe our grade 6 physical science is not, in fact, NGSS? So that's one thing, talking about NGSS. And then we have a user in Texas who's asking for guidance a little bit on, a Board of Education adoption. You do have the TEKS alignment, but this is a question that my admin's going to ask me. Do you meet state standards? So what do you tell our user in Texas about meeting state standards?
Let's go first and answer the second question first, because we're right there. I think the key thing about this is anytime people use CK-12, I always talk about it in terms of we do 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting of creating the content and getting it to you. Now, states change their state standards all the time. And being 35 people in Palo Alto, California, we can't stay on top of every single change. And that's where we look to you, the user of this content, to go make the final customization that you need to make to fully align with the changes in your state standards. The nice thing is this doesn't just have to happen every 7 years. You have full access to your books, and you can update them as often as you want. And what we find is that people who have CK-12 books update them throughout the year even, and they make them better, and they add in new content. Like last year when we got the names of the 4 new periodic table elements, those got added in immediately. And that was very exciting because people who had a printed textbook from a large publisher didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I feel like, the bottom line is that a Board of Education has approved a lot of CK-12 content. In like Grossmont just went through this as a city outside of San Diego. They just went through a whole adoption, which included a CK-12 FlexBook. And the Board of Education specifically approved their version of the FlexBook that they created, which matched exactly the scope and sequence of exactly what they were doing. So being in Texas, I'd encourage you to go take a look at the EPISD, and there's also Del Valle there, and 2 large districts in your state who have done incredible work with customizing and matching the current Texas TEKS. The other question was about NGSS, and where I like to kind of talk about this is the world, or at least the United States now, is in a really great movement, which is we want our students to think more like scientists, okay? And so whether you are an NGSS state or not, often the changes that are happening to your state standards or the IB curriculum internationally or any other curriculum, the focus has been to get students beyond rote memorization into thinking like a scientist and approaching problems like a scientist. So what you'll see on CK-12 is what I call the foundational material, because right now there are very few states that have actually introduced what their framework is that's going to address NGSS. So 19 states have said they're going to do NGSS, and of those 19, very few have said, here's what we're going to actually ask our students to do. Here are the phenomena that we're going to use. So the point we're at right now is the publishers even don't really know exactly what to put together because so few states have said, here's what we're going to be studying. And very, very few states have said, here's what we're going to test you on. So because it's all so new, we're in this little gap period where, yes, there are some great things on CK-12 that you can use to create NGSS content, but our grade 6 book is not NGSS written. It has some alignment to NGSS, but it also has some things for other school systems and standard systems around. So what I encourage you to do is to use CK-12 to provide the foundational content that you need as part of NGSS, while incorporated into things with phenomena that you're putting together. And I'll do a plug. In the fall, we're having a conference, a 2-day conference that's all about phenomena, where people are going to come digitally and also in person to CK-12 here, and we'd love to see more science teachers participate in that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the keynote to tackle Laura's question, which is, can you collaborate with another teacher when editing a FlexBook? We know that this is a common situation, that sometimes people are working in partners or in teams to work on books. So we've got a couple of slides to talk you through that process. So let's see. I'll let you pick up here, Carl.
Sure. So we want to point out here, one of the ways that you can think about CK-12 is we always want the best quality content for our students. You can use CK-12 with no modification, knowing that it was created in a very similar way that the large publishers' content was created. We have subject matter experts that will go in and write original content. Then it is peer reviewed and changes are made and interactives are added, and we have great content. Now, I feel like the next step, which is really important, we talked about it briefly, is you customize what we've done. I can't write for every school system. I can't write for every state standards, and I don't know your students. And so that's the part when you come in. As Lindsay mentioned with Coeur d'Alene up in Idaho, very few publishers actually make any books for Idaho. And for the first time ever, their students were seeing examples using CK-12 of things happening in their area. And once you do this level of customization, you access the highest quality content possible. And I think that's what it comes down to. Because remember, we have both public and private schools that use CK-12, not because it's free, but because it provides the highest quality content that anybody can create for their students. When talking about creating FlexBook in teams, what we encourage you to do is kind of follow this little list here. Form your curriculum teams. Remember, not all teachers are curriculum people. So bring in people from the district, bring in curriculum people, tech people, and then also your pioneering teachers that are great curriculum developers. But you need one person to be in charge of it, and then have that person assign like different chapters to different people or different groups. And I also encourage you to create a different set of credentials to log into CK-12 for that book. So it's not just like on Lindsay's account. It's on like the Washington High School Science Department account when I'm creating a new biology book. Then go through the content and incorporate all the modalities of learning that you think will work with your students from CK-12's concept pages, whether that's embedding adaptive practice, our interactives, videos, real-world applications. Finally, when you're done, pilot it with a select group of teachers and get some feedback. And this will ensure really high quality. And even solicit some of the content from them of stuff that they know works with their students, especially when it's localized.
All right, well, you guys keep your questions coming into Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and do some wrap-up information just to be conscious of time here. We usually try to wrap up at the hour, and then we will stay on and answer any questions that you guys might have at the end of this webinar. One question that we've been asked a little bit, again, hopefully most of you have already joined our Google Classroom, but if any of you are still needing to join our Google Classroom, here's a code that you can use. We've got a couple different classrooms. This one still has some space for you to join. So BNH7F0 can get you into a Google Classroom. If you have any questions about that, you can let us know. Just a reminder that we did have this resource page. You should be able to find these within the Google Classroom, or we chatted out the link earlier. Hopefully these are good pages for you just to keep in mind, keep in your notebook, keep in a file somewhere, be ready to pull out when you start thinking about the school year and how you're going to be using FlexBooks. Then, of course, any of you looking to complete the CK-12 Certified Educator program will want to complete the assignment for this session. It is available in Google Classroom, and we suggest you complete it within 1 week of the session so everything is fresh. A reminder that all assignments must be completed before the end of July. We also have one feedback form for this program, and we hope you'll use it following our webinars. Please take a minute to tell us what went well and what we can do better. This is not mandatory, but we check it every day, and we love reading your comments, and we talk about it as a team of how we can continually improve this program. So please share the feedback if you're able. And then this was our getting started with FlexBooks. So I hope that if you have not already taken these, that you're going to consider joining us for an advanced FlexBook editing session. We have a Common Core Math on CK-12 session. If you are a math teacher and you want to spend time with us really getting to know those Common Core interactive books, Laramie Spence, our math guru here, is going to walk you through those in the Common Core Math session. And then I'm helping to lead a CK-12 platform for non-STEM users. If any of you are not math and science and you want to spend an hour looking at ways to use our site to use the platform to push out content that's non-STEM, I'm going to give you some helpful hints on how to do that. We are also promoting what we're calling live chats this Friday. This jumped on the registration kind of late. This wasn't on your initial registration page. But we've heard from our users that you guys want an opportunity to turn on your microphones and talk to each other. So we found a way to do this. And so you can see we've got a full lineup here of different buckets of regions and areas. We've got international, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Southern, homeschool, higher ed, Midwest, West Coast educators. And there is a link that we're putting in the chat window for you to direct register for these, or you can go into Google Classroom and sign up. But these are going to be like half-hour sessions where, depending on the number of users who've joined us for that session, we're going to put you guys into breakout rooms and give you some conversation starters. And you're able to turn on your microphone if you would like. You're able to turn on your video camera if you would like, or you could just continue to type text to each other and get to know people in your area and talk about what's happening in education. So we hope you'll consider joining one or more of those if you would like on Friday. And then we've got an Ask Me Anything with Niru Khosla. She is our executive director and co-founder. So after you guys have spent some time in the Certified Educator program, we think you should have plenty of questions for our founder. If you want to know why something is the way it is on CK-12, or if you want to talk about the future, she's the one to ask. So Wednesday, July 18th, 11 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to put the direct register link in the chat window, or that's available in our Google Classroom as well. You can also send questions to jumpstart@ck12.org in advance of that session if you would like, or just show up live and ask me your question yourself. We have an active conversation happening in our Jumpstart for Educators Cafe, so if you've not joined that, you'll want to do so. And then, of course, if you're on the socials, you can like us on Facebook, follow us at CK12 Foundation. And then on Twitter, we are at CK12 Foundation, or we are using the hashtag CK12 certified for this program. And again, we love reading your tweets, and our marketing person's been retweeting up a storm. So we like hearing from you. Please use hashtag CK12 certified. If there is anything that we did not answer today that we can help you with, please email jumpstart@ck12.org and we will get back to you on that. Otherwise, we've hit the hour mark for those of you who need to go and all your questions have been answered. Go ahead and head off. For those of you who still have some questions, please stay on, and I'm going to turn it back over to Carl here, and we're going to start going through the Q&A.
Okay, so here we go. There's a lot of great questions coming to us from the Q&A window. And like Lindsay said, if you need to go now, if it's 2 a.m., as I know some of you it is, feel free to pop off. But we will stay here and answer every last question until everything's been settled. All right, so I wanted to answer the question, can you collaborate with another teacher when editing a FlexBook? Yeah, and I think that's the section we just went over, and then somebody else had a question about it too, about logging in. And what you cannot do is this isn't Google Docs. You can't collaboratively share a resources and have everybody log in on their own content, own details and work on it. Our system was made so that one person at a time went in and worked on something. And that's kind of the best use case. You have no problems if you work that way. But there are some things that you can do, like we've suggested, that maybe you share credentials for like a Washington High School Science Department book. And then once you've done that, you can have people working in different parts of the book and you will have fewer problems. But it's really important that one person's in charge of it and one person finalizes and one person publishes. And that only happens when everyone else is all logged out. Okay. All right. Another question, Lindsay?
I'm not sure. What demo, and I will check what's happening here with Q&A. Okay, so let's see. We answered this top one. We've answered this one. Okay, so someone, I shouldn't be laughing. I'm sorry. We can all relate to this. You're in a post-migraine haze. You're a bit foggy and trying to figure out how to begin the process of customizing for your classes.
Yeah, and I will mention to you that, Renee, remember we have the great session resource handout that is available that you can click on through. Maybe we can repost the link right now in the chat window that gives you direct access. And on there, I've put 4 different ways to find FlexBooks so that you can remember how to do it the 4 ways. But essentially, it's using these branches here. And the key thing that I'm going to remind you of is you have to click on this tab right here, FlexBook Textbooks. And that's kind of the best way to do it. You can also use search. And, if I'm typing biology, the thing to remember on the search is you need to make sure that, once again, you click on this tab here to see not the concepts, but the textbooks there. And I think the resource page that we've put together will be a really good guide to help you with all the content that we've done here. And even this, I would encourage anybody this week, before the session starts, print out that resource page and kind of use it to follow along. Because I know we are giving you so much information here. So it's really hard to kind of stay on top of it when I'm jumping around so quickly. We just are, of course, trying to get as much done. Somebody's asking here, I came into the webinar late. 10 minutes, will I still get credit? Yeah, just go back and rewatch the video. Obviously, we want you present and live during the session, but we realize sometimes you have to restart your computer or, booting into Zoom required an upgrade or whatever. So, yes, 10 minutes is fine. All right. Looking here, Lindsay, do you have another one ready to go or?
Someone's asking, where is the research page? And I guess I'm not really sure what that's
resource page is probably what.
Oh, okay. There you go.
And the resource page are listed in the Google Classroom. and you'll see for each session, and I think, Lindsay, they have access to all the pages, even for sessions they didn't attend. So you might want to look at those because there's some really great information on each one of the resources page. Just go into the class in Google Classroom, that's the CEP class, and you'll see there, you'll have access to those pages. And they're all little PDFs that are really easy to print out.
We've got a question of, are there assessment questions at the end of each chapter or concept, and can the students send me their answers or print them?
We have, you can assign our adaptive practice at the, for each concept that you cover, for example, in your FlexBook. And you can easily say, okay, we're going to cover motion and, what other topics you have there. And when you assign it and the students do it as part of that assignment, you will be given the feedback. Now, at the bottom of a lot of our lessons or our reads, you're going to see a list of questions there. These are not our adaptive practice, and these are not even digital. So they have access to the answers, but you won't be involved in part of that. So if you want feedback or you want the results sent to you, the way you do that is you offer them, you create an assignment covering all the concepts you want. And there's some really great webinars this week, one on getting started with adaptive practice, and another one is customizing adaptive practice. And I really encourage all of you to join those because they are really great ways to learn about, I think, one of the most powerful parts of personalized learning on CK-12, which is our adaptive practice built on machine learning. So.
We have a user asking about answers. Lessons have questions. Do you have the answer? Sometimes I leave it for substitute teachers.
Sure. That's a great question. And you'll notice that if we ask questions throughout, especially in the review section, there'll be a link saying there's a PDF that has these answers in it. So they will be there. But for the adaptive practice that I was just talking about, they'll have access to the answers as part of the adaptive system.
Okay, then when assigning adaptive practice, is there a way to confirm if the student has read or watched a video? I'm wondering if that's the recommendations that pop up while doing adaptive practice?
Yeah, if you're talking about, because sometimes with the adaptive practice, it notices that the student is struggling. And so in that case, it says, hey, 80% of students do better after they watch this video. 90% do better after they do this interactive. But that feedback of the intervention that the computer offered is not given to the teacher. The feedback that is given from adaptive practice is only about how many questions they answered, how many they got right, what level those questions were, how much time did they spend on doing the adaptive practice. So, and with that, I think that's it. It's been a really exciting, I'm glad that there were so many people today that signed up and were, started in on this second week of our Certified Educator program. There's a lot to learn, and we look forward to speaking with you again. And there's another question I'm being told. How about having groups of specific teachers in each area? Yes, well, the first thing right there is he's talking about, or I'm not sure, he or she is talking about, how about having groups of specific teachers in each area? And well, let's get started. I think we have our live chats this Friday is the first step to making that happen. The next thing is you're going to see our Jumpstart for Educators forum in our cafe, the CK-12 forum discussions. And you can go there and get connected with other people from your area. And you'll see some of the states have already discussion forums specifically for educators. And once there's enough of a discussion going from one particular state, we open it up and kind of make their own forum. So I think in general, we encourage teachers to have these discussions with people that have similar either backgrounds or location as them. And we'll try to make that happen as much as possible. So, all righty. Thanks so much, folks. And we will see you again tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Bye-bye.